Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Apex F1 podcast. I'm Meredith and I am joined by my co-hosts. Say hello, guys.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Hope everybody had a great weekend full of motorsports, and I can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah, a bunch of
It
stuff
sure
going on.
was a very full weekend. Like, very, very full. Group chat was popping off more than it ever has. So, did anybody do anything else this weekend besides watch motorsports?
I worked.
I got on the boat,
work too.
so I did not work. I watched motorsport and hung out on the river. So I somehow managed to fit both of those things in.
Hey, it works.
That's a fantastic weekend. And hey, you were even able to get some updates in on your shift. And I'm glad you were actually working this weekend, Paul, because I needed to go to sleep after watching racing for like 16 hours on Saturday. So it was awesome that you were still working, because then I woke up to racing updates from you on Sunday morning. And it was like I never even missed a beat. It was perfect.
Listen, my part-time job is working at a hospital at night, so I figure, hey, I'm going to put my AirPod in and listen to the race and just, hey, I think I'd listened to maybe 9.5 hours.
Well, I'd say you maximized your downtime then.
Oh, absolutely. Wait, downtime. I was taking care of patients while listening to the race. Sorry, nobody said I was good at my job, okay?
If you are Paul's employer, you did not hear that previous
Oh, no, I hope
statement.
they heard it.
Yeah, he said part-time
Well,
job
it
for a
was
reason.
Part-time. That's
Absolutely.
right.
Ain't worried about that one.
Maybe former employer now after this gets posted.
Could be.
I don't think they're much F1 fans, but you never know.
Hey, you never know. You might find the stray motorsport fan because of
Yeah.
it, though, right?
Exactly.
Hey, maybe they're just really big 24-hour fans, because we had a lot of that this weekend. That was like the majority of the weekend.
Man.
Right?
So-
It was so exciting.
So, Josh, what did you think about it? This was the first time you really got into Le Mans and endurance racing. What did you think at the end of it?
I was very impressed by just the level and the quality of, but not even just the racing, but the broadcasting and everything else. Like, it was very well done. It was not low budget. It was not rinky-dink. It was very well done. I don't know what I was expecting, but for a 24-hour broadcast, you always see like the jokes and stuff online that's like in the middle of the night, stuff gets weird, and that kind of leads it to maybe sometimes believe that it isn't very good quality. But no, absolutely wrong. Like, maybe it gets weird in the middle of the night, but it's so much fun to watch at all hours. It was such a great time. I really enjoyed the hypercar stuff. Those guys, it's a lot of names I recognize being a Formula One fan. So it was really cool seeing those guys perform at that level and just really pushing those cars. I learned a lot of stuff about those kinds of cars. I didn't know they were mixing and matching tire compounds, just all sorts of different things. I was looking up. I was really into it. I loved it. I will be definitely watching more of the WEC stuff. I enjoyed it quite a bit. So I'm in. I am now officially into endurance racing. So yep, we're in. We're in here.
Yeah,
I love it.
it's
Okay, what
definitely a lot of
platform
fun.
did you watch on, Josh? Because I know, Paul, you were watching on YouTube TV, right?
I did, but what annoyed me about it, and naturally it's TV, it was commercials. So it was something would happen, and then they'd break into commercial, and I'm like, ah. So at one point, I just gave up and went to HBO Max and watched it.
Yeah, I was
Josh,
I
where
was
did you
on
watch?
I was on Max almost the whole time, and then I ended up going to another guy's house up at the river, and he had it on on the YouTube TV. So I saw just about an hour of the YouTube TV broadcast, but for the most part, I was watching on Max.
Awesome.
Even-
Me too. But, I am interested because somebody in the comments, we had a lot of people that were hopping onto the updates on the Apex F1 pod that we did over the weekend on TikTok and Instagram. And somebody in the comments said, that they felt like the commentary was really biased and it really only focused on hypercar category. And so next year, I feel like I watched on Max too. So next year, I think I'm going to buy the FIA WEC TV package. I think he said it was like $16.95 for the weekend. I would be interested to see if the FIA WEC package changes up that coverage a little bit, or if they really do focus mostly on that hypercar category. I figured the TNT Sports coverage that was on Max was probably focusing on where most of the fans' attention was, with some of the big name drivers, a lot of Formula One former drivers in there, and maybe a lot more attention, and especially with Ferrari being big in the hypercar category, and then also a lot of other big players. It would just be interesting to kind of compare and do a baseline of, is it the same coverage on FIA WEC TV too, or do they cover more of the other categories in that media coverage? So I would be interested to know that.
I did have two complaints about it. I think even they focused a lot on the hypercar, and it's just like there's two other series going on. I'd like to know what's going on there, and they would briefly talk about them, but it was mainly hypercar, which was okay. And then my other complaint was the website isn't user friendly to figure out times, to figure out who's in the lead, and that was to me the biggest headache, because even at the beginning of my shift, because I work 7 to 7, 7 p to 7 a, I was like briefly having a few moments to figure out, hey, let me go on the website and figure out timing, and it was incredibly difficult. Not necessarily difficult, just not so user friendly to figure out timings. So those are two of my complaints. It's like I would hope that they would get better at those couple things.
Agreed. I think even as I was watching the broadcast, I was also looking at, it was like Racing News 365, which is kind of one of my go-tos, and then CrashNet too. I follow both of those kind of as race events are going on, and they post updates throughout too. So I kind of had the same complaint, Paul, not a complaint, but like a question in my head of I was kind of having to go to other places to get more coverage on updates in the other categories too. So great learning lessons for us. It was something last year, I was still so new. Last year was my first year where I picked like endurance racing as my sport I'm going to learn about this year. So I was too new to even wonder or even pick up on the difference in the media coverage last year. So this year was really a little bit different for me. So it'll be interesting next year to see, hey, if I do the FIA WEC package, do they cover more of the other? And if not, maybe we can do some recon and listen in, kind of poll some of our other listeners of what are other great resources that you use to keep up with the other categories, because I would have loved to know more of what was going on in LMP2 and LMGT3 as well.
The other big question I had was, as a fan, when you buy tickets to the event, is a ticket for the entire 24 hours, or is it just like a morning session and then an evening session? Because there was fans throughout the stands the entire time. And that was just my dumb question. It's like, do I buy a ticket for the whole day? Can I just sit in the stands for 24 whole hours, or can I go sleep and then come back?
I hit that 5 a.m. stretch, and I was like, there wasn't anybody in those main grandstands when they were coming down at 5 a.m. and that sun was getting ready to come up. I didn't see a single person in the main grandstand.
Yeah,
so I was wondering that myself.
But nonetheless, it was a great event.
So I'll give my thoughts as the first timer in the group for the Le Mans. I do agree. I think there needs to be some other form of media that you can reference real quick to check in on the progress of the race. It's unrealistic for anybody to sit and watch for 24 hours. I definitely was like taking stints and just watching for periods of time and then going on doing other things and having to check back in. But if there was such other form as maybe like a live app that had live timings, similar to the F1 app for those Formula 1 fans out there that probably followed through that. Like the live timing is really accurate. It's up to date. It's very simple to just click on there and see kind of where the timing sheet is. So I think something like that would be advantageous for the average
They do
fan.
have an app. You just have to pay for it.
Well, see, that's a barrier to entry sucks, right? Like that's just excludes people like me, who I'm not going to go buy that app. Maybe next year I would, but as a first-timer or someone who just stumbles upon it and just is like, oh, this is neat. Like I'd follow this for 24 hours. They're not going to go buy an app to watch that. And then if you're out of the loop for 3 or 4 hours and you come back and things are completely different than they were when you stopped watching, which they usually are. So then you're like, oh, where did I miss? And you're trying to catch up through, whatever else. So I did notice that they do post a lot of the updates on their YouTube channel. So I was able to go watch a lot of highlights on YouTube, and they would catch back up as I got back into watching for a couple more hours. But I think like a live app or just a really good social media presence, maybe similar to their YouTube, where you can go and see exactly where things are at, would make it a little easier for like the average fan to follow that doesn't have access or doesn't know about looking at like the third party resources like Racing 365 or whatever else you may get into. That would be my comment on that. But I personally like the hypercar stuff, but I agree that there were several teams, especially in GT3, that I was trying to follow that I could really not find much on, and it was kind of difficult to find out where they were placing and kind of gauge what their success and their strategies, because they didn't talk about strategy for GT3 or LMP2, so it was hard to see anything other than hypercar on the broadcast from like an actual like fan's perspective where you're trying to see exact teams and their placement. I would be interested to see if the WEC stuff from their website, their package had it a little bit different. Maybe they have different broadcasts for each classification or something, but I could see how the downfall of that on the TV side. But all in all, I still enjoyed it.
And to get back to your point about updates, at least on Twitter, if you follow some of the teams on Twitter, they do a good job of the teams themselves. 6-hour mark, this is what's going on. 10-hour mark. So if you follow them on social media, they do a good job of that. That's how I was keeping up with some of the stuff. But you're right, it would be nice to be able to get some of those live stuff. And the WEC app is actually free, but in order to get all the other features with it, you have to pay for it, and it's a subscription package. And I'm like, well, I'm not into it that much just yet to do the whole subscription. But it gives us something to do for next year for sure.
Well, I would like to state for the record right now, June 16th, 2025, WEC, this is our formal bid for the three of us. You don't see a lot of content creators in the motorsport space that are covering WEC as much. Like, F1 gets a lot of attention, IndyCar gets a lot of attention, NASCAR is growing, and, on the content creation space. FIA WEC TV, if you are watching, listening, if you catch this is our formal bid that Josh, Paul, and Meredith would like to come do content for you guys at an endurance race. Like, it deserves it, it needs it, but I also think it needs it from a fan perspective like us who maybe aren't as much on the technical side, but just want to share about our excitement updates, but have been a fan just long enough to know the pitfalls of what's not being covered in the media and in the broadcasting, and we would like to fill those holes. So this is my formal bid, putting it out in the world. Done. FIA WEC, we want to cover you moving forward.
And to kind of add to that, especially with as big as Formula One has become over the last several years in the United States, and projected to probably have another little resurgence here after the movie's release, since it's going to be one of your summer blockbusters. So the projection would be that more fans would get into Formula One. So now's the perfect time to really start building onto that and really start trying to grab some of these Formula One fans that may, like myself, have been more interested in Formula One but are now kind of gravitating towards some other motorsport classifications, whatever you want to call it. Here's the time. This is it to reach out to these fans, just like myself, who just watched this for the first time this year, and now I'm hooked on it. There's plenty more people like me out there, hundreds of thousands of fans that probably would love watching endurance racing just as much as they'd enjoy watching Formula One or NASCAR or IndyCar or whatever it may be. So yeah, WEC, if you're listening, now's the time to jump on the bandwagon and try to draw some of the potential fans out of the woodworks from some of these other classes, and let's get this thing going.
And there is a really fun headline going into next year. In the middle of the night, they were talking about it. Ford is actually joining the hypercar ranks next year. So little Ford versus Ferrari type of thing again. So that'll be cool. I don't know how well the car will do, but nonetheless, kind of brings that back.
And if you are a listener and you're like, okay, the 24-hour Le Mans was really exciting and I loved learning about it, and I kind of want to get into it. The FIA WEC calendar is still going. They have a couple more races left this year, and I talked about it with the girls over on Podium Pop. WEC races are so much more affordable than Formula One races are. I mean, for a paddock ticket, the Le Mans Spirit Club for WEC tickets, I mean, you're going to pay $1,000 for the race day paddock, VIP, go in the garages, all food and beverage included. And a paddock ticket at an F1 race is 10, 15 grand, 25 if you're going to Vegas. So in terms of accessibility, it's there. And I know even the Lone Star Le Mans race that's Labor Day weekend in Austin, right now they're doing a Father's Day special until June 21st, where it is buy a 3-day grounds pass, get a 3-day grounds pass free, and then you can buy a paddock pass and get the garage tour and be able to do all that, and you get another one free. So I think that they're just doing a lot to make it accessible. So maybe you're coming off the coattails of this and you're like, I really liked this and I think I'd like to go and experience something like that. Check out the FIA WEC website to find which races are still left on the calendar. I know that we talked yesterday and we're absolutely going to go to the Lone Star Le Mans again and take advantage of that sale that's going on right now, because what a great opportunity. You get a 3-day grounds pass and a paddock pass and it's $150. That's amazing. So absolutely going to be taking advantage of that. But check out there, it's not just WEC. There's the FIA WEC, the World Endurance Championship, but there's also other endurance racing series like IMSA here in the US and the ELMS, the European Le Mans series over in Europe. So there's endurance racing for everyone where everyone is. So check it out, ride the coattails, check out some of those other series too.
I believe this upcoming weekend there's the 24 of Nuremberg. Is that this week coming up? I think it is. It's here this week. It's coming up. I remember them saying in the broadcast.
I haven't even looked forward because I just needed a quick minute to refresh after 28 hours of watching racing this weekend.
But I do believe it's coming up, which would be another great one because that track is crazy. If you want chaos and carnage, Le Mans is a little bit more straightforward strategy, not as much as cars going off track and hitting barriers and flipping. Nürburgring is definitely a little bit more it's a little more hectic. So if that is truly this next weekend, there's always going to be that.
My European coworkers always tell me that I need to go do the driving experience there when I'm over there and rent a car and go do it. So I'm like, it's a bucket list item for me. I must.
That would be a lot of fun.
I absolutely must. And they're like, you love cars. How have you not done that on any of your Europe trips? I'm like, I don't know. You don't know what you don't know. So adding it to my bucket list.
As you should.
That'd be fun.
But getting back to Le Mans, big congrats to Ferrari for winning it. I really thought the 51 was going to win it, but they had that incident going into the pit, which, man, I felt terrible for them.
It
but congrats to the...
hurt my feelings.
Absolutely. I heard about it, and then I had to whip it out of my pocket real quick to see it. It was a tough watch because you could tell that guy felt terrible at the end. But congrats to the 83 Ferrari for winning it all. And I did not know, what's that driver's name again? The just history behind him.
Yeah, Robert Kubica.
Yes.
Kubica. Yeah,
I didn't
Robert
know
Kubica.
about him.
Yeah, so big Formula One driver, was going to be like the up and coming next big thing, right? This is 2007. He wrecked at Canada, 2007, broke his legs. Terribly broke his legs. Like if you look at the still pictures of after the crash, it's the...
Wait, this is the one you're
yes,
talking about? It was him?
It was Robert Kubica, which is the whole... So I'll go through the whole story because it's a wild... Like, it's one of the best comebacks. If this is like one of the best comebacks of sports. So this is...
Oh, take it away.
So 2007, he wrecks on the straight coming into the hairpin in Canada. Terribly wrecks. Rips the nose of the car off. If you look at the still images, his feet are broken and dangling out of the nose cone of the car as it's tumbling through the air. Horrible wreck. Had to be like extricated from the vehicle. Bad wreck. Was out for races. Races on races on races. He was out. He survives, rehabs. He comes back the next year, 2008. Gets his first and only Formula One victory at Canada to get the next year. So already that right there, super cool story. I think he's the only Polish driver to win a Formula One race. 2011, 2010 he does well. He's still doing well. He's still considered to be the up and coming one of the best drivers. 2011 he's rallying in the off season in Italy. Has another terrible accident. Should have killed him. It damn near took off.
Dude, nasty accident.
Yeah.
I saw the pictures today. He's lucky by the grace of God.
The guardrail penetrated through the car and basically took off of his right arm.
Yes.
His whole right arm was pretty much gone, right? It was almost amputated. Somehow, by medical science and the grace of God, they were able to repair his arm. However, he was probably not going to come back to Formula One. He had just signed... We don't know 100%, but the rumor was, and still is, that he had signed for Ferrari for the 2012 season, and he lost his chance to drive for the Scuderia.
He had 13 surgeries on his forearm. I saw that today, just to repair it on his right arm. It was nasty. But go on.
So this is like in any other sport, any other circumstance, career-ending injury, right? He should have retired and been thankful to be alive, let alone to be able to continue racing. Ends up being able to come back to Formula One later on. He raced with George Russell at Williams, and I believe 2019. He was a reserve driver for several other teams throughout time. He replaced Kimi Räikkönen for 2 races when he was at Alfa Romeo. So it just was able to come back to Formula One. Huge deal. Huge thing for him to be able to come back and even drive a Formula One car. Obviously not as competitive as he would have been in his younger years and with full function of his right hand. But then he leaves Formula One, starts driving endurance. He's driving the LMP2 car, 2021, is leading the race, failure on the last lap, mechanical failure, car dies, loses on the last lap in the 21 Le Mans. So once again, another heartbreak. And then now, driving for Ferrari, the team that he was it's a satellite team for Ferrari. It's not actually Ferrari itself, but whatever, we'll call it Ferrari. He's driving a Ferrari for a satellite team, is able to kind of fulfill that dream of driving in red that he didn't have in Formula One, was able to then now win, after all this time, win the 24-hour Le Mans. And I just think that's one of the best comeback stories in sport. And probably it's not going to get...
That's a movie waiting.
100%. It's
like someone pick up the documentary and make it.
It's not going to get as much attention as it absolutely should. It should be like Tiger Woods coming back to win the Masters. It should be a story like that. 100%. It should be a movie. Unbelievable that he was able to come back and win. Robert Kubica, congratulations. What a race. Did 50? I think he said 57 laps to do that final stint. His drinks bottle was broken, had been broken for who knows how long. Had basically raced, he raced 43% of the race, which is nuts, and did 57 laps at the end to bring it home. That's just a crazy drive. What a story. Awesome story. I loved it. You can see I got into it.
Can I quick sidebar?
Yeah.
Can I quick sidebar? Tiger comment. Josh, I know you watch golf. Did you watch the U.S. Open?
I watched as much as I could while also juggling every other motorsport.
Did you see that JJ spot?
Yeah, 64 feet is stupid. A walk off major winner, which I thought was great after he.
We were screaming.
Yeah, and I thought that was great for him to kind of get that back after his Players kind of failure after that, because I was at the Players. I saw that whole deal. He was great. I saw JT Thomas miss his chance at the record at 18, but whatever.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, yes, great for
Man, okay, sorry. I had to side by that. JJ Spawn, that putt out of this world was so over the moon for him. You brought up golf. I had to just ask.
That was cool.
All right, back to the Le Mans. Sorry, Paul.
No, you're fine.
Okay, so in the hypercar category, obviously the number 83 AF course took the victory there. Absolutely amazing. But that number 2 was the number 6 Porsche Penske, which, like, let's talk about that.
Man,
because
they were hauling
earlier
ass
in the
towards
week, they had been disqualified during qualifying because of technical inspection. The car was underweight. So they started at the back of the grid. And I think that's another amazing story that people aren't talking about enough. Like, they had to go to the back of the grid and work their way up and got second place, which is absolutely incredible. And, I know that Penske's got some stuff going on clearly with, multiple racing series having some technical inspection infringements.
You mean all of them?
Penske, get it together.
Every one of the ones that they participate in?
Every one of the ones they participate in. So, like, Penske, get it together. But what an incredible story for them to fight their way back up and get second. And then, obviously, for the 51 car to come back after they had that spin out. I was with you, Paul, after I saw that. I thought that number 51 car was done. And then even in those last 2 hours, that number 50 Ferrari was looking way better than the 51. And then there was a pit, I think it was like about an hour before, and I was like, why are they pitting the 51? And then all of a sudden that 51 came, and then they overtook the 51 and swapped that position, and then right there it was like the 50 and the 51 were battling for that third position those last 2 hours, and I thought that it was just a really, really great finish in the hypercar category. I think I was really sad for Cadillac, with them having that first time ever 1-2 start, and then to see where those cars ended. And then those were the Hertz, Cadillac, Jodas. But then the other Cadillacs, the 2 DNFs we had in the hypercar category were also both Cadillacs. We had the 31 and the 101 other Cadillac that both DNF'd theirs. Kind of a bummer weekend for Cadillac, which I was disappointed.
Even Toyota Gazoo, they didn't really have the pace this year.
No.
That number 7 car looked good, but there was that technical issue with the number 8 car, and that was bumming me out. Or was it the other way around?
Towards the end, it just really didn't look like they had the pace.
No.
Which was shocking. They haven't
absolutely
missed a podium so far this season, so I was like, man, what's going on? I was bummed.
Yeah, and I'm surprised the Alpines were down so far as they were. I was kind of surprised to see that. I had heard that, with Mick and just the Alpine team had been doing well. I think they were coming off a podium, so kind of surprised to see them so far down the order. And then BMW as well had some technical difficulties, I think, too, and they did not place well. So, but I was surprised.
Yeah, I think the one Kevin Magnussen was in was having alternator issues, so they had to fix that one, which would put him way behind everything.
Yeah, way behind. What a delay.
I'm surprised.
Okay, LMP2. Go ahead.
Going to say in general.
Go ahead,
I was going to say that I was surprised, but how few DNFs there really were. I think that's pretty wild.
That's what I was going to say. Like, usually that DNF list is long, but yes, that was on my list of notes to make. Yeah, the most DNFs were down in the LMGT3 category, the 78, 54, 31, 46, 95, 60, 88. There were so few, only 3 LMP2 DNFs. So overall, I feel like this year was a very successful year for Le Mans. I mean, in all the categories, LMGT3 experienced the most challenge, but that's to be expected. They're built more like road cars. I think it's an entirely different mechanical process than the other categories are.
Yeah, that Iron Dames car was doing so well most of the day, and man, they had that gearbox issue which really put them behind. Thankfully, they were able to fix it, and I think they finished 16th, which good for them. But man, it was just tough for that team because they were top 10 most of the day, so just tough for them. But thank God they were able to at least finish something.
Yeah. Okay, so LMP2 podium, we had the number 43 Inter Europol competition, the number 48 VDS Panis Racing, and the 199 AO by TF there. So those were our podium in LMP2. And then down in LMGT3, we had the number 92 Manthe First Form, the number 21 Vista AF course, and the, I don't remember, I forgot to write the number down, but the TF Sport with the Andrade, Eastwood, and Rumpy. I mean, I just thought it was a great race overall. Was super excited to not see any major crashes where people were injured, you know, especially with the weather not having rain this year, which is really rare this time of year for it to not have rain. That's what we're kind of used to. And especially going into the night, that's when it gets really dangerous. And so it was really nice to see a year with a lot of completions, the weather element not causing a lot there. But they did talk a lot, and I don't know if y'all heard this in the coverage, about the amount of bugs and flies. Like they were like, this year, the drivers are being very vocal about it. We can see it on the broadcast, and they said they were thicker this year. And I was wondering if, like, maybe that was due to the lack of moisture, if, like, because of the rain, it kind of keeps the bugs a little bit away. And because there was no rain, maybe the bugs were just out and about in full force this year.
And some of those onboard cameras were rough. Some of those windshields were like, man, I have no idea how they're seeing out of that thing. Yeah, it was definitely. My brother actually was telling me about that, and it was just tough.
Yeah, the before and after pictures, like the number 83 hypercar before and after, the first thing I looked at was that windshield. And I was like, and then I thought about how all the drivers sit on the car, you know, as it comes down pit lane to do the celebration, and all the drivers sit on it. And I'm like, you know what? I wouldn't even care about all that getting on me if I just
your
won
race
that
suit full of bugs at that point.
Yeah. That's the last thing on
It's
your
like the
mind.
least of your worries.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, any other closing thoughts on Le Mans before we switch gears?
No, this is the first year I really fully paid attention to it, and you know, it was a lot of fun. I had a blast, and I can't wait for next year.
Yep, I agree. That was my first time even dabbling in endurance racing, and I was blown away, and I am very impressed, and I will continue to watch. So, yeah, I'm very excited. Very good weekend.
Welcome to the cult.
Yep, I'm in now.
Yeah, it definitely made it a lot easier just finding one series or one car and following that instead of taking it as a whole, because there's 60-some cars out there, and it can get a little overwhelming. That was my brother's first time watching it, and he took it as a whole, and I said, and he was starting to get a headache on it. I said, no, next year pick one series, one car, and just follow that. It's going to make a much more enjoyable watch.
Absolutely. Well, then we will transition. And unfortunately, the Ferrari success we saw over in Le Mans did not transfer over to the F1 race in Montreal. But I do think we need to call back to the point you made earlier, Josh, about Robert Kubica and George Russell, who were driver partners at Williams in 2019. Because the success we did have was for both of them in that 2019 Williams driver pairing, with Robert Kubica taking the W over in Le Mans and George Russell taking the W in Montreal. And, you know, we talked about it a lot earlier this season. Mercedes is the dark horse. Mercedes is the dark horse. They had a few rough weekends, but this weekend they brought it. They absolutely brought it. We had George with the win. We had Kimi's first podium. So, Josh, you're rocking the Mercedes shirt today, so I'll come to you first. What were your thoughts on the race? I want to hear all about it.
Yeah, I was just very not surprised, because I said last week that I thought Mercedes was going to have a strong showing, but it was surprising to see just in how well they were able to do. You know, I was expecting some podiums, maybe some strong points finishes. I didn't necessarily think a double podium was in the cards. You know, got to give it to Kimi. That was a great move to put himself in the position in that first lap. You know, that was big.
What?
Lap one, big move from the young man to put himself in position for a podium, and then just a good, strong race throughout the rest of the time. You know, a good, just clean.
Overtaking the world driver leader, just smoking in lap one, made it look easy.
Yeah, he just positioned himself well on the inside and was able to just make it around the hairpin. I mean, the inside was going to be a stronger line. It looked like Max was too worried about trying to make a move instead of defending what he already had. So I understand, you know, how that move was made. It wasn't necessarily the most aggressive move in the world. It was just putting himself in the right line. But it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you have to make that lap one move if you really want a chance at a podium, and then a strong race after that. I thought by far the best driver of the day was Lando. I thought that he was able to make enough positions and had a strong race, was able to make his tires last, and he seemed to be the quickest on the day. Just unfortunately took a really big risk there at the end and almost took out his teammate in the process. We'll get into that later on, but big day for the Silver Arrows. big day for Kimi being on the podium for the first time. I think I saw a thing that said that he was able to enjoy his champagne because the legal drinking age in Quebec is 18. So he was able to enjoy his champagne, which is perfect, as I think he deserved it. So big race for George as well. He made some funny comments about the penalty points. I thought that was very nice against Max.
Sassy.
Oh yeah, it was just taking
taking
little shots there at Max, which is great. I think Max had a really good race. I think he just kind of quiet.
Max had a great
Yeah, he quietly was just in second the whole time. I don't think really anybody talks about it enough, but solid race by Max. We had some losers in there, I'm sure we'll get to, that just didn't really show up. I think as bad as the weekend on paper, I guess, is and isn't for Ferrari, you expect more, but, with the bad strategy decisions and damage on Lewis's car in lap 13, is 5th and 6th really that bad? I hate to be like the glass half full all the time for Ferrari because they just do need to pick up the pace. I mean, they're still getting points. They're doing a lot better than some other teams are. So, it could be worse, but it could be better. What do y'all think about? What's y'all's thoughts? What we got?
What were your thoughts on the race?
Well, listen, I got a lot to say about all of it. First of all, congrats to Kimi on his first podium. It was watching him getting out of the car. It was such an adorable moment because he seemed lost. He's like, what do I do? It reminded me of that Ricky Bobby. What do I do with my hands right now? I don't know.
He's like, where am I supposed to go?
Congrats to him. Yeah. So he looked a little lost, but good for him. I don't know what I would do at 18 trying to figure out. I just got a podium. So listen, I can't talk too much crap. It was a good race. I'm just getting tired of these cars. I hope 2026 gets a little bit better. It was a DRS train. It was boring. I'm just getting tired of it. All that dirty air, and I'm praying and I'm hoping, and whatever religion you are, whatever deity you pray to, please pray to that person, because I really hope this 26 car is better. I'm sorry, I got to cuss. I'm fucking tired of it. It's just dumb. I'm tired of the way the starting lineup is how we're going to finish. And it's just, I'm frustrated. Also, what on earth is Ferrari doing? I'm getting sick and tired of these stupid strategies that they're doing. Leclerc clearly wanted to do one stop, and they go, okay. And then they're like, no, we're going to do it our way. I understand. I get it. Engineers see the whole picture. Engineers can see numbers and charts that the drivers can't. But the driver is there driving the car, and he knows what's going on. And if he thinks those tires can last, let's listen to the driver. This is year, what, 5? What year is Charles on? 7? And they're still treating him like, they're still treating him like he's got no idea what's going on. At a certain point, Charles needs to grow a pair and just step up to the team and say, "No, we're doing it my way this time." And
I get he will though.
He has to. We've seen it. We've seen it. Wow, stuttering problem. We've seen it with Max.
You're so frustrated. It's causing a stutter.
We saw it with vintage Lewis, and we've seen it with some of these great drivers. They're like, "No, we're going to do it my way today." At a certain point, you can't let them control this like this. Their strategy is messed up. I hate it. Ferrari keeps shooting themselves in the foot, and they're just leaving points on the tape.
You know who I think does a really good job of vocalizing to their team when they're not happy with the strategy is Alex Albon. Like, I know we all talk about his sassy radios, but I actually think that he does a really great job of communicating when he's unhappy and exactly what he disagrees with, and then he's very firm. He doesn't just express his frustration and then just, like, there are times when he does take team orders, and he does say, but I do appreciate that Alex vocalizes exactly what he wants to see happening differently. Like, and it does come off sometimes a little sassy and a little diva-ish, but I think he deserves that, right? He's the one that's in the car. He's the one that's feeling it. So while some engineer may see the math behind it and be making a decision based on math, Alex is the one in that car, and he does a really great job of vocalizing, no, I'm not happy with that. This is what we need to do. And he's very firm with it. And I would like to see Charles, he does a really great job of playing Mr. Ferrari, and I love that. Right now, I do very much associate Charles Leclerc with the brand of Ferrari, but I really would love to see Charles learn to navigate the conversations with those engineers and with his team a little bit better during the race.
I'm at the point now where I'm willing to say that if Charles ever wants to be world champion, he has to leave Ferrari. I don't think he can ever win a world title with that team. Just because for 7 years he's done, got 5 victories in 7 years? It's just like, at what point?
Well,
and I said it time and time Go ahead, Josh.
Well, I don't think you can look at his victories and say that has any indication on the team, right? Those years are filled with a Mercedes team that was absolutely dominant and won every race. Those years were filled with several Red Bull cars that won every single race. So it's kind of hard to say like, oh, it's all Ferrari, they just suck and they've sucked for 5 years. Like, no, like the other teams have just been crushing it for several years, and that's a lot of that struggle. But like, I think that this is a little bit closer. We're a lot closer now to seeing multiple teams that can battle for. Well, we saw it last year. We've seen it the last few races that multiple teams can battle for, podiums and wins now. And you would think that as strong as Ferrari ended the year last year, they should be in that conversation, and they're just not. And I think that's the issue. Any other year, I'd be happy with Ferrari being 5th and 6th every race and being second in the constructors. But now, well, they're not even second in constructors anymore. But now it's, you're seeing 4. They're done with that now. But you see several other teams that are getting podiums, and it's like, oh, okay, where's the Scarlet Red? Where's the Scuderia in all this? And if they're not going to be on the podium, then something should change, because if every other team can do it, if Max can do it in a crappy Red Bull, if Mercedes is able to somehow figure out their cooling issues from the last few years, and they're able to get race wins and they're able to get podiums pretty consistently now, where's Ferrari? What are we doing? So I understand the sentiment of being frustrated with Ferrari, but I don't necessarily think that you point at Charles and say his previous tenure with Ferrari has any indication on the future. I think that they've screwed up somewhere along the way on creating this 25 car. I don't know what they do to fix it at this point, but I don't think that's a reflection on Charles, and I don't think that's a reflection on their relationship with the team.
But when I'm talking about strategic issues, they keep shooting themselves in the foot. At a certain point, take the car aside and take the driver aside. When you're making stupid decisions on track, and you're right, Mercedes was dominant towards the end, and, but let's take these last 2 years, for instance. Hell, even 3. How many times did they shoot themselves in the foot over a stupid strategy and it cost them points? At a certain point,
I think you're more aware of it because you're a Ferrari fan now. I think that's the reality of any fan of any team has been frustrated at any point because they're like, my team's making dumb calls. I mean, like, I felt that way about yesterday with McLaren. Lando and Oscar should be allowed to race, right? And I agree, but it's like when they're racing and one car has the pace, you need to give the team order. Hey, Lando's behind you. He's got the pace and could potentially go hunt Kimi down and get this podium. That is your job as the team to make that call. Lando had the pace more than Oscar. They didn't make the order. Lando tried to make their move. There wasn't enough of a gap, and it caused an issue. I see that as a McLaren fan and feel that frustration more and feel like I tend to jump towards like these generalizations because I'm both a McLaren and a Ferrari fan. But I think when you're hyper aware of these little micro adjustments that like we as the outsiders can see so easily, like just make the call, like I think every fan of every team feels that way at some point. And so I think you're feeling this frustration with Ferrari right now because you're a new Ferrari fan. Welcome to the struggle. It's rough being Tifosi sometimes. But I think it's just something you're hyper aware of right now, so you're a little bit more critical of it. Whereas I think once you settle into your Tifosidom, you will level out a little bit more on it. And over time, I think you're going to be like, okay, like it wasn't a bad race. Like Josh said, like 5th and 6th is good. Like any team would be happy to finish 5th and 6th. But for some reason, the bar is just higher when it's Ferrari because it's Ferrari and because it's your team now. So I'm with you, Paul. I'm ready for the 2026 car. I'm ready for things to be shaken up. I'm tired of, the middle 90% of a race. Like the start and the finish are the only exciting parts of a race right now. And I'm over it. But I do think that it's really easy to just like see this moment and be frustrated and be like, Ferrari's just making completely stupid decisions. No, we've gotten some podiums. Charles is finding something with the car. Lewis was finding something. He had a pretty strong weekend leading up to the race, and moment of silence for the groundhog. Had he not hit that RIP, he was losing, we saw the math, he was losing 0.53 seconds a lap after hitting that groundhog. So imagine if he hadn't been losing half a second a lap on pace because of something that was happening with the car. So
yeah, and he was able to, for the first time, out-qualify his teammate, which is something we've all been pointing at for several weeks now. Like, Lewis can't out-qualify Charles. Is he terrible? And now it's like, okay, well, he did it once. So he's figuring it out. Give him a minute.
Yeah. He's getting more comfortable.
I guess my thing is if they were ever going to compete for a title, this was ultimately on paper the year to do it. They had such a great ending last year
Yep.
that you thought the momentum was going to be there. They have two world-class drivers. I truly think Charles is a world championship material. I think if he's got everything right, I think he can definitely win it all. This was the year to do it, and so far it's come out flat.
Yeah,
It's come
I
out
agree.
flat. It keeps shooting themselves in the foot, and it really makes me, maybe I'm just a glass half empty kind of guy when it comes to this, but I'm not hopeful going into next year. Do we think they're going to get it right? Probably not at this point.
I think that they've got as good a chance as anybody.
I don't know.
I think that everybody's going to be dealing with the same, the unknowns. The unknowns are a huge part of this. This isn't the end of a regulation cycle where it's kind of like every tenth has been found, every second's been gained. I think that, especially with Ferrari particularly being a power unit manufacturer, they're going to be in a really good spot to make this thing work. I didn't say the thing yet. I'm getting there. Just stand by.
No, you said the two words.
No,
so
I didn't add the first part to it, which we will talk about momentarily because we did have that problem particularly. But getting back to Ferrari, I think that with them being a manufacturer, they're going to have one of the better opportunities to make it work since this next regulation cycle does seem to be a little bit more power unit driven as opposed to the aerodynamics that we've had lately. So maybe, it's Ferrari. Who knows? They could kill it. They could crush it. Or they couldn't. But you could say that about every team. So it's unknown. We can't.
And ultimately, there's still a lot of racing left to be done this season.
A lot.
Oh, yeah. We're barely halfway.
Just a quarter of the way
Yeah,
through.
not halfway yet.
So a lot can change, and I'm trying to stay hopeful and optimistic that they'll try to find something in there to move on and be a good team. But only time will tell, I guess.
Speaking of moving on, I need to move on to this point about the Alex Albon lap 1 going on an adventure.
That was a big adventure. Definitely an adventure.
Just full
Just like-
send.
Need someone to turn that into like a little GIF for my keyboard because like that is what my brain does on a little mid-morning break between meetings, just like him just launching over into the grass. I was laughing so hard. I don't know why. I was just like, I mean, he had nowhere to go, right? Like it was just like Colapinto turn a little one and then Alex was like, bye. I just thought it was hilarious. I mean, ultimately, like I hated that Alex had to retire his car and didn't get to finish the race. Like that sucked. I think Williams has been on a bit of a heater, and so I was bummed about that one and bummed about Sainz's qualifying, that whole incident with Isaac Hajar and the confusion on the radio of it being, hey, I thought he aborted his lap, and they're like, it was like Isaac's team radio confused him, and he thought Sainz had aborted that flying lap in qualifying, and so Sainz had a horrible qualifying, ended up in the points, which is awesome, but I hated that Alex wasn't able to finish the race too, so, I thought Alex's little adventure into the grass was quite comedic. It brought me some good relief on that turn, or lap 1.
I was surprised he didn't end up with a penalty for the unsafe rejoin. I get not having the space.
Same.
No, I'm not. I get like not having the space to make the corner. Colapinto had the corner. If Alex probably would go back and do it again, he'd have backed out and just fell in behind and made the corner and tried not to lose any more positions. But just the way that he rejoined was unreal. He should have wrecked himself, and he probably should have wrecked 2 or 3 other guys on the way out. So have you seen Hulkenberg's on board of that? I think they showed it during the live broadcast. That's the mark right there of a veteran driver who have seen that before. He's seen that movie before, and he was like, oh yeah, I'll just he knew that Albon was coming from the left. Yeah, he's just like, oh, I'll just stick to the left.
Yep.
Went on by and ends up
Yeah.
really helping his race out because he ends up with a good points haul. Once again, for Sauber, who's now 6th in the Constructors. What's happening?
Like, what is happening?
It's like,
I don't know. I just great reflexes by Nico, experienced driver, like you said, but I was quite shocked there was not a penalty handed out there. Reality is that if Max had done that,
penalty
if
point.
Lando had done that, people who they love to hate, right? Like people who the internet love to hate. Like if it had been Max or Lando, everybody would be up in arms. But because it's Alex Albon and everybody likes Alex, nobody on the internet is like, give that man a penalty. But if it would have been Max or Lando
100%.
doing it, that we all would have been like, he needs the penalty. 5 grids.
Let's stick to that point. Had Max slammed on his brakes the way George did right at that caution, we would have been asking for the penalty. I thought personally, once again, I'm going to cuss, I thought that was kind of a bitch move on George's part.
Hey, I don't disagree. My question in the moment was that Karen coming out? Karen George
Yes.
coming out and being intentional and trying to see if he could force an error on Max's side that might lead to Max getting a penalty? Or was it just George's reflex in the moment? You know, like I couldn't tell.
No, I thought it was a bitch move on George, and I thought it's George trying to do whatever he can to make Max make the mistake to get another penalty point to suspend him. I thought that was a bitch move.
But to your point earlier, Josh, this is some of Max's best driving. Like, I think if Max could just like lock it in and stay level-headed and drive like this, it's clear that he's like trying to drive a little bit safer. I wish he would look at that and go, oh my gosh, I got second place. It's one of my better races I've had this season. I got a lot of points. I'm right back up in the fight. Now we've got it's about a 20-point gap between Oscar and Lando and about a 20-point gap between Lando and Max now. If Max can just lock in and be level-headed and drive consistent like this the rest of the season, maybe it is a little bit more delicate driving style of Max that we haven't seen, because we're used to seeing Max drive with his elbows out. If he would drive like this, I think he is not out of that title contention in any way, shape, or form, and we could see it come down to a last couple of races.
Yeah, I think if Max was to realize, and I think this is the thing with Max, he wants to win every single race he goes out in. I get it. That's fine. He's got that competitive edge that's been instilled with him from his childhood. Not an issue. That's Max, right? That's what we all come to expect from him. But if he was to take a step back and take that like 30,000 foot view and really understand that, like, okay, I could get second and third. Heck, I can get fourth. I can get fifth. But I'm still going to be consistently getting points every single weekend, and those are going to add up because McLaren and Mercedes and maybe sometimes Ferrari are going to steal points off each other all the time. If Max is just that guy that's in third place every time, he's going to just continue to rake in points. He's easily in the conversation, easily. Now, Red Bull's not going to be in the constructors fight, but with 5 other drivers fighting for podiums and other points hauls, you have no idea what could happen by the end of this thing. So Max is still definitely in the fight.
And I think this is where McLaren needs to figure their stuff out and actually come up with team orders and pick a number one driver. Because if they're going to keep doing this is where Max is going to pick away at those points, and before you know it, Max is going to be in second or in the lead to get that 5th world title. I think this is where McLaren needs to get it together.
I think I'm actually okay with the idea of them not picking a number one driver. What I'm not okay with is them not giving team orders in a race when a car clearly has more pace. I mean, contractually, their cars are supposed to be dead even. Contractually, they're not supposed to pick a lead driver. So I'm okay. I think I've come to the resolution that I'm okay with them not having a lead driver for the season or overall or whatever, like we see with some other teams. What I'm not okay with is them not giving a team order in the race when whatever car it is that's papaya has the pace and a potential to go hunt someone down. At the end of the day, we know that both drivers will comply with team orders. Lando did it last season when he didn't want to, and I don't think he should have had to give that position back to Oscar. That gave Oscar the win of that race. I don't even remember which race it was. That was last season.
Hungary.
Yeah, maybe Hungary. But he did it. He complied. He wasn't happy, but he did it. And he said that there have been times that Oscar had done it for him too. So we know they'll both comply. Why do them as a team not say, hey, we are working together. Both of your points matter, but the team matters most? Because what happened is by them not designating, Lando took a risk that didn't pay off. Go big or go home. His ass went home because he DNF'd, and then those points got missed out on, and now that affects them over on the constructors. So,
but I still think that move falls on Lando. He admitted it immediately. He knew that move was wrong.
100%. But I'm just saying, I think had the team, I mean, that entire lap leading up to that, Lando is on Oscar's ass.
He definitely was faster.
He had the pace. McLaren should have come on the radio and said, Oscar, let Lando pass, because he had 5 laps. He was outpacing Oscar's laps the previous 2 laps. He had 5 more laps with only a 1.4 second gap to Kimi at that time. So with a 1 second gap, I think with 5 laps, there could have been a possibility that Lando on those tires could have chased down a
So I think
that's my opinion.
I think that's probably spot on, and I'm gonna I think that McLaren should do that, right? McLaren should realize that Lando's faster and move him over. He had fresher tires. He was on a different strategy. Move Oscar over, let Lando through, fight for that podium spot. However, because it's McLaren and because of kind of the narrative that they've already set with this, we have 2 number 1 drivers. We're not going to pick one. They're racing. Papaya rules. They're racing each other. They're allowed to race. because they've been saying that for so long, I don't think that they really want to back down and be like, okay, well, we got to make team orders now. I think that they're almost stuck to their guns so much that they're unwilling to make that move.
They're kicking themselves.
Right. Yeah. I think that they've got to stick to their guns and allow the guys to race, even if it obviously is to the detriment of the team. Maybe they don't do that anymore. Maybe this is like maybe we take a step back and we realize that we may have to give team orders sometimes. Like, let them race lap 1. Let them race if they're close, but if they're not close in timing, then what's the point?
Yeah.
We knew that
Maybe it's not about a lead driver. Maybe it's about this is a lead car situation that race by race, given the elements, the conditions, the drivers, the tires, the strategies, maybe we don't pick designated number 1, number 2 drivers. Maybe this is about, hey, this is a car that has the pace, go. And it's just like, as drivers, they should understand that. Like, of course it's going to hurt their pride. Of course they're going to complain about it on the radio or in the media or whatever. It costs them valuable points.
Yep, it did.
Absolutely, and they need to work together to make sure Max doesn't beat them in the end.
Or George.
They keep shooting themselves in the foot on this one. I still don't think that Mercedes car is quite there yet. I think we're going to see it next in Austria. The temperatures are warmer, so they still have that overheating issue. I don't see George fighting up there, but Max is always going to be there.
I don't know. George took the W last time in Austria.
This is true. Well, only after complete disaster, and he just waltzed in. I mean,
we'll talk about that next week. We got to get all into that next week because I watched it happen right in front of me, and I have thoughts. Okay, any other thoughts on Canada?
No, I think it's,
I got one. Get your drinks. Before I do this, I will say the other thing I was thinking. Fernando Alonso, great race. That's the last driver that I'll discuss, but great race, Fernando. That's 2 points for him in a row. Good job. Okay, so why is every other customer team with a Mercedes power unit, why are they having issues with Mercedes themselves? So there you go. There's my drink for the day. Why are we having problems with the power unit and everyone else but the main team?
You're asking a lot of great questions, Josh.
I think this is one of those. Has James Vowles come out and said anything?
And it's not just Williams. I mean, we've got Aston Martin as well that is obviously suffering issues they had in Monaco. But is this something with the power unit? Is this something with, obviously, the engineering side is going to be maybe a little bit stronger when it's the works team. I'd be curious to know like kind of what this issue is, because this is the first time in a long time that we've had like a distinctive issue with one particular manufacturer's power unit, right? So kind of curious. It's getting to the point where it's too frequent not to start asking some serious questions about it.
I don't know. I'm not the technical.
Oh yeah, I'm not either. I have no idea.
I'm gonna do some digging and see what I can come up with. We'll do some digging.
Yeah, let's do some digging. Okay,
I'm gonna send.
We'll look it up.
I'm gonna send a message to our.
I'll call James.
I'm gonna send a message to Dr. No. I'm gonna send a message to Dr. Obbs and see if he's got any information on.
That'd be perfect.
That's a great idea, Paul. I like that one.
Yeah, I'll get back to you guys on that one.
Okay, so let's go back to the scoreboard. So our predictions: Josh, you predicted Oscar winning, Lando in second, Max in third. Your shocker prediction, your initial one was wrong, which was Isaac. But then you went back on it and you said Aston Martin double points, which was also very wrong.
I didn't expect
Paul,
Lance to be back.
Podium?
Unfortunately, I thought Lance was going to stay away.
Okay, Paul, your podium was the same: Oscar, Lando, Max. Your shocker prediction was Williams double points. My podium prediction: Oscar, George, Charles, and one of the Red Bull DNF. One of the four in the Red Bull family with DNF. We all absolutely crapped the bed on our podium predictions. So no points for anyone
not great
on podium predictions. And unfortunately for you, Paul, my prediction on the shocker prediction came true, and it's what caused your shocker prediction to not come true. Liam Lawson DNF'd this race, so one of the four. So my shocker prediction came true, but Williams did not finish. Alex Albon went off on his little adventure and then ultimately had to retire his car later in the race. And Alex Albon did not finish, so no Williams double points for you. So This week, I am excited to announce that I am the only one with a point on the board, which brings our new grand total to Josh and I tied for the lead, 5-5. Paul closely behind in 4. Paul's been on a bit of a dry spell, but
I got some soul searching to do.
We do have a listener write in for you, Paul. May make you feel a little bit better for your second goose egg in a row.
You did tell me something before we had started that there was something.
You said there was a surprise. Now this is the surprise.
This is a surprise write-in, an Apex apology from my friend Leah. Leah was really excited to hate on Paul in the comments about his hate on Williams the last couple of races and his disbelief, and now coming back and kissing the ring to James now that we've been on a bit of a heater.
Wait. Have I been a Williams hater lately?
You were a Williams hater for like 3 races.
Like the whole beginning of the year.
In your predictions. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, fair enough.
Yeah, but it's okay. You came back,
Okay.
You said you were going to write an apology letter. And
oh,
Leah
yes. I remember now. Okay.
Leah wanted to hold you to that. But she, too, wanted to write an apology, an Apex apology. So I shall read that now. Dear Polly, I really need to take a moment and offer my deepest, most profound apology for the outrageous crime I have committed. Publicly calling you out for your totally fair, completely reasonable, 100% evidence-based opinion that there was no way both Williams drivers could finish in top 10 at Canadian Grand Prix. How dare I question your crystal ball? Shame on me for my faith in James Vowles, the drivers, and reality. Honestly, I don't know what came over me. Maybe I was blinded by optimism. Maybe I was swept away by the thrill of seeing Williams actually look competitive. Or maybe, just maybe, I dared to believe in a team that's been clawing its way back from the depths. But no, clearly you have it all figured out. The idea of both drivers cracking top 10? An absurd fantasy. I really should have saved myself for the embarrassment of having hope. So here I am, humbly offering this public apology for the grievous error of doubting your spot-on analysis. Let's focus on what really matters. How I called you out on your take before the race, when I clearly should have waited until after so I could gloat properly. A rookie mistake, really. And James Vowles, oh yes, how foolish of me to think he might actually be guiding the team in positive direction. From now on, I promise to keep my enthusiasm in check, no more calling people out for their lack of faith in Williams, no more getting carried away by pesky little things like data, strategy, or results. I'll simply nod sagely and agree with every pessimistic take. After all, that's clearly the safest path. So please accept my apology. I'll try very hard to not let my passion be goaded by your personal opinions, no matter how asinine they may be. Your humble fan, Leah.
Yeah,
I agree with the
line,
asinine opinions. That's how I feel about it.
Shut up, Josh. Tell her, let her know that.
So I promised I would save that as a little surprise for you.
Nice.
Okay, I like it. I'm here for it.
But Paul, you had a dry spell, but I believe in you, and you're gonna come next week for Austria predictions, and you're gonna get right back in the game. You're only 1 point behind us, so you will get right back in the game. I just
need one good race and to turn my season around. Much like Ferrari, we just need one good race.
That's all you ever need.
That's all it takes.
All you ever need is you're one good race away from being back in the fight.
Yes. We need to do a lot of soul searching and not make strategic errors.
Okay, and Josh, I just have to say, I love that your wife and I have hit the level of our friendship where I get like memes from her now and like books that she thinks of me. Like she was out book shopping and she sent me a book, like an F1 fan fiction that she was buying and reading. And Leah is actually writing an F1 fan fiction. So I promised Courtney that I would share it with her after Leah finishes and is ready to share with the world.
There you go.
So changing gears, let's do a little quick coverage on NASCAR because we did have so much motorsports. And this one was a big one because this was NASCAR's first race in Mexico City, which is super exciting, super cool. And I know that like Pato's been super vocal with IndyCar about like, look, NASCAR's even racing in Mexico now. Like, why can't we, right? So Paul, I'll come to you first. I know we were texting during the race some last night. What were your thoughts on the NASCAR race?
Listen, I was a little skeptical going into it just because I didn't know how much fandom the Mexican fans had towards NASCAR. Granted, Daniel Suarez is from Mexico, so there's that. But man, I was truly impressed. Those Mexican fans showed up. The atmosphere was incredible. You had a few people bitch moaning, complaining about it, but I think you're just gonna get that with everything. But ultimately, I thought both the Xfinity and the Cup Series, both very fun races. What a better storybook ending than Daniel Suarez winning it. Especially not even in his regular car. This was a backup car. The colors weren't even there, but good for him. Just seeing the emotions of his wife and family crying. So kudos to him. And super exciting weekend. I really hope NASCAR does it again next year. And I hope I'm sure next year will be even bigger.
Are we aware of who his wife is?
I know her name, but no, I don't know too much about her.
Nelson Piquet. Nelson Piquet's daughter. This is
okay. Yeah.
Kelly Piquet's sister that is married to Daniel Suarez. So like Max's baby mama, girlfriend, partner, her sister is Daniel Suarez's wife.
Oh yeah.
So it's all one big racing family here.
One big happy family.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was amazing. But Josh, I know you had some questions on the Daniel Suarez
Yeah, because
win.
I didn't watch the race. I
Nope. We're not going to
gonna
tarnish
ask
it,
the
Josh.
question because that's my role. I'm the questions
Nope.
guy. I saw several news articles pop up immediately after the race, and I had to look into it myself because I was like, what are we talking about? What? So there's a question now of race fixing after the Daniel Suarez win because he raced in a backup car, has not been a contender for wins, and just all of a sudden just happened to win his home race. Like it just left a lot of questions, and I saw several sources all kind of claiming like there was something fishy going on. So I don't have a dog in the fight because I didn't watch it. I don't know anything about it, but I did see the articles, and I think that the question's got to be asked if that's something that's going on. I mean, we can't allow race fixing for any matter. No, it doesn't matter if it's somebody's home race or not. Would you imagine if we let Lance Stroll win the Canadian Grand Prix? What? So we can't do this. We can't have this in any category of sport. It doesn't work. So I hope it's not true. I like the integrity of sports is important.
I don't know that Canada has the same love for Lance Stroll that Mexico has for
I don't know. I
Suarez.
saw one guy wearing a Austin Martin hat, but it was Fernando's number, but it's the same thing, right? So I don't know. I wish that it's not true. I hope it's not true because I do really I hold
I hope
integrity in sport is very important. I think it's what keeps it fun for everybody. It is, and if you didn't have that, then what's the point? It's what ruins sports. It has in the past, and I hope it's not true. But I don't know. Maybe you guys can fill me in. What's the take? What are we thinking?
I honestly haven't seen anything online about it.
I did see a lot of stuff about it as well, but here's my thought is that there are too many technical inspections in this sport for them to get away with something like that. And these drivers are so competitive. I mean, especially with where we are in the season, people are looking for seats next year. There are contracts open. And especially going from the Xfinity to the Cup Series, like the Xfinity Series on Saturday, those people are fighting for their dreams. They're fighting for their careers. I don't see any narrative about a Daniel Suarez home win being worth a race fixing and them being willing to give up the points in the competition as they are literally fighting to move up the ladder. So that's my thought. Like, I think people are going to question it because the story is so incredible, but I don't think there's any validity to it. I think haters are just going to hate, and I think Daniel Suarez won it fair and clean, and it is a great story, so it's natural to want to question it, but I think there are too many technical systems and inspections in place for something like that to happen. That's my opinion. It's just like cheaters are going to get caught. They have. Penske.
Yeah. And Daniel drives for both series, the Xfinity and the Cup Series. So what advantage does he have if it does get fixed?
Right.
I mean, it's not like he's. I don't know. I don't think there's anything there. I think it's just a happy story. It just happens. So no, I don't think there's anything there.
But I do think that we had some really great battles on Sunday during the Cup Series race. I mean, for a lot of the race, I thought like there was the SVG number 88 was battling Ty Gibbs, the number 54 car, for like the majority of it. And I think a lot of the conversation was, is it gonna be Gibbs or is it gonna be SVG? And I was like, I love Ty Gibbs, and I was messaging with these other two guys that have a podcast, and they're super big NASCAR guys, and they love Ty Gibbs, and I was like, oh, Ty Gibbs, look, it's your boy. And then part of me just really wanted it for SVG. This changed his entire season. He was not locked into a playoff seat, and those 50 points changed it for him. Those 50 points changed it. He is secured in the playoffs with this win, and I think that means a lot to him. I think Christopher Bell did amazing. I think Christopher Bell is one of the most underrated NASCAR Cup Series drivers. He has several wins, but he also has a ton of top 5 finishes, and I think he's really underrated. Chase Elliott came in third. He drove phenomenally, but I think, Paul, you and I were texting about it. No, wait, we weren't texting about that one. We were texting about IndyCar, but I also thought that Alex Bowman in the 48 car, he was up in that fight the entire time. I thought Alex Bowman
towards
might
the end,
pull off the W.
Yeah, towards the end, he was really hauling ass and really doing a great job. Pull it off.
And I've got to admit, I'm so sorry, Michael McDowell. I didn't know who you were. I feel very terrible, but like he got in the top 5 and I was like, Michael McDowell, who's that? I don't know who that is. But I thought Alex Bowman was going to get back up there and be in that fight. I hated Ty Gibbs fell back.
Had it been a few more laps longer, I definitely think he would have competed toward that first. But kudos to SVG. I mean,
Yeah.
He won this one, and 2 years ago when Chicago had their first road track, he won that one. So he's really made a name for himself for winning on tracks that other people don't know, especially road tracks like that.
Right.
So good for him. He's just a great driver, and it's so interesting to see these drivers that have come up in oval racing only do some of these other tracks that are different. That learning curve. I mean, you saw people like Kyle Larson really struggling and towards the back most of the.
That was actually my last point on NASCAR I wanted to bring up. Was I wrote down Paul Larson.
I think that the narrative is over. I think you can't talk shit and say that you're better than Max when your only claim to fame is an oval. You really can't do anything other than turn left.
I will say that I appreciated the tenacity of being 39 laps down and being like, I'm still going to get out there and I'm going to finish this race. You know, his car came in, he had to get it worked on, and he still went out and finished the race. And I think a lot of drivers, especially drivers with an ego that have been talking smack in the public about like being better than Max Verstappen, I think a lot of drivers could have just thrown the towel in and said, nah, I'm done.
Yeah. It's a pride for them.
So I was proud of him for getting back in the car and finishing the race, even being 39 laps down, you know? So I'm just glad you publicly admitted.
It's all right. I got to do it. But yeah, all in all, great weekend in Mexico for NASCAR. I hope Indy is paying attention. And we see how great these Mexican fans are for Formula One. We see it now in NASCAR. I can only imagine what's going to happen for IndyCar with Pato. I mean, these Mexican fans were following all these NASCAR drivers, and some of them practically not necessarily unknown, but not as popular as some of the other drivers. These Mexican fans were just all over them, wanting pictures and autographs. Mexico turned up, and like I said, I hope IndyCar's paying attention because that whole country might implode if Pato shows up in an IndyCar race there.
I think it would be amazing.
Oh,
I want to go to the Formula E race in Mexico City. I think that one would be a really fun one to go to.
Yeah.
Those Formula E cars with their overtake systems and stuff, I'm like, that would be sick.
I just think any race in Mexico would be a lot of fun. I got to add that to the bucket list of places to go to. It would be a lot of fun to do.
Okay, well, speaking of IndyCar, you brought it up. Let's close out with talking about the IndyCar race from yesterday that was in St. Louis, the Bommarito 500, which is a short oval, which was such a fun type of track. I've never seen a short oval like that. This was my first time watching this race, and I loved it. What were y'all's thoughts?
It was a lot of fun. First of all, can we talk about the pyrotechnics as they were doing?
Yeah, super cool. Big explosion.
Incredible.
I was like, this really is lit.
I looked at my brother. I was like, holy crap, where did that come from?
Yeah.
But it was a really fun race. Connor Daly was really hauling ass. I think he started 13th or 15th, and within the first 2 minutes made it all the way to 7th. I mean, good for him. Great race. And being that short oval, things move so quick. At one point, I looked over at my brother, and I'm like, yo, we're at lap 60 already. It just seems like I just turned it on 5 minutes ago. So it was a fun race. You know, terrible crash from Joseph Newgarden there. You know, it was tough to watch. Glad he made it out okay. But all in all, really fun race.
I was so bummed because, like, right off the bat, right before the race, they were talking about Will Power and how his family was there. And they were like, this is Will Power's wife, and his kid is asleep in the trailer. She's assured us that the kid is asleep, but right there. And that if Will Power gets a podium or gets a win, they are ready to wake that kid up and bring it on out to the podium. And then it was like right at the start of the race, we had Devlin crash and go out. And then the cameraman crashed. And I was like just recovering from the cameraman crash, which was worse than Devlin's crash. And then all of a sudden they're like, Will Power. And I'm like, no, Will. No. They just did a whole thing, the whole bit about your family's here.
Yeah, and what bad luck too. Just the puncture and just lost all steering. It was, of course, it was that, you know, right front puncture. They just put him up into the wall. Just like, what else do you do?
And then did you see how he was having to steer his car to get back?
Full
like his
left lock.
Literally,
yeah. It was wild. That was it. And then cars were not so much longer after that. Cars were on fire in the pit lane, and Jesus.
Yeah, Christian Rasmussen, who ended up on the podium.
He was on fire,
which was amazing. And I don't know if y'all follow his social media account. Do y'all follow him on socials?
No.
Best driver socials.
Really?
No ifs, ands, or buts. No questions. Like, think like V-carb over in F1. but a driver. His socials are incredible, and I mean, credit to his team. There's a girl who works with him who helps him with his socials, and it's amazing. But his are fantastic. But there was the excess fuel on his car that was like on fire. But then I don't know what the heck was happening with Christian Lundgaard, who was in the pits, that was like all of a sudden like reversing. Did y'all see that?
Yeah, he overshot his pit.
And then it's like, we got Christian reversing, we got the other Christian on fire. I'm like, this is just too much Christian happening in the pit lane at one time.
Yeah, I think he tried. He overshot his pit box, and then apparently you can't reverse it's against the rules to reverse. So
makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know, but it was a rough day for it's like Ray Hall Letterman Racing is who both Devlin and Louis Foster drive for, and so both those cars not finishing was not good for them. But
even Penske had a bad weekend.
Yeah, it was not good. But that Louis Foster thing, it was like we talked about before we started recording. I mean, he lost it, and there was nowhere for Joseph Newgarden to go. No. And I am so glad he is okay, because it was kind of funny. I was like almost having like a Lando flashback, because he like tried to steer left, and I was like, "Whoa, you can't go there!" And then
that onboard was scary.
Yeah, and I think it was Colton Herta who said it during qualifying, Indy 500 qualifying, and he said it looks a lot scarier than it is. Like, there's been so many upgrades to the safety features, and with those halos, I was wondering, I'm sure it's terrifying to be upside down, grinding on a rail. That driver onboard camera was horrifying, but it does make me feel a little bit better that the drivers are saying things like, I'm okay, and it just looks a lot scarier than it is. That the AMR team, we've talked about how great their safety response team is, immediately, within 10 seconds, hopped over that barrier, had two guys there checking on him, and made sure that he was okay. So thank goodness he's okay, because, I mean, they got to turn it around, and they've got Road America this weekend, so they've got to get right back to it.
And that battle with Connor Daly and Pato O'Ward for first, that was such a fun battle. It was just a lot of fun. And I think that's what I'm really starting to enjoy about IndyCar, is that at any given weekend, anybody can compete for first, and it's not just your usual suspects that you get with Formula One. I didn't think Connor Daly starting 15th or 13th was going to compete towards the top, but here he was fighting Pato for first, and that's what makes it fun. My only complaint about IndyCar is I wish those back markers would move out of the way. They just in the way, and it made it tough. You saw it with Pato trying to pass. I'm like, dude, you're already lapped. At this point, move.
Right.
Let the people that are fighting towards the top continue fighting for it. And that was my biggest complaint about yesterday.
I was frustrated. I really wanted the Pato win. I did. He was driving so good. Nothing against Kyle Kirkwood. Kyle Kirkwood drove an amazing race and did phenomenal. I mean, from the start, Kyle was doing good. But it was like my two that I were watching were Connor Daly and Kyle Kirkwood. Like, I was like, they're on one today. But, it's like we were texting last night, Paul. Like, it's like Pato kind of gets a little bit further behind and waits till like the end to be super aggressive, and then sometimes loses it. And so I felt like this race, I was like,
he's always right there.
Yep.
He's always there. I need him. I really need him to just get over that hump and just be that driver that we know he can be. Because ultimately, for the most part, the car is there. He's starting to get used to this new hybrid system, which was tough for him to get used to. But now he's getting it. Man, I hope he gets that break he needs, because he's always second, third, fourth. He needs that break.
Yeah, I want it for him, but I mean, we're right back at it this weekend. He's been pretty consistent these last couple of races, so hopefully he's just getting dialed in with that car, and maybe this weekend we have a Pato win for us.
Fingers crossed.
Okay, any other closing thoughts? We covered a lot. I mean, especially for not even an hour and a half and covering 4 racing series. I feel like
it was a very heavy weekend for motorsport, and you got a crown jewel mixed in there. So I mean, it was a lot to watch, a lot to take in. So if anybody out there did manage to watch everything, kudos to you, because that's a very difficult task to make it to the whole time period involved to watch all these things. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And I'm definitely glad we have a week off. I'm glad we have a week off from F1, because I think
need a little break.
We all need a weekend to just relax.
Yes, this weekend I perfectly felt like my husband has a golf tournament this weekend, so I will be out doing golf stuff all weekend. But I just wanted to give a shout out for all the people who engaged with the stuff I was posting on the Apex F1 pod for the coverage of Le Mans. Like, We had so many good views on videos, people asking questions, people sending messages. And so like, thank y'all so much for engaging with us. Like that's what we want. And it was so fun to do that and to do those updates in that way. Just, it does nothing but help us get better at putting out content that is like for the fans. That's what we're here for. But thank you to all the people who watched the videos, left the comments, asked the questions, sent the messages. It was a lot of fun doing that way. And yeah, hope to be able to do it more, especially when FIOX sponsors
Absolutely.
us, right?
Absolutely. Next year
will
be there.
For
Hit us up. We'll
sure.
be, if a WEX send us to Lone Star, we'll go. We'll do it.
Oh my gosh, we'll be there. Okay, well, with that, we will wrap up. Follow us on socials. We'll post content throughout the week. Apex F1 Pod on TikTok and Instagram. Paul, what's our Twitter?
Oh, I never remember it. God, I am really bad at my job.
Look at our
Yeah, I
link
promise.
tree. Look at our
It is
link
at
tree.
the Apex Pod on Twitter. Sorry about that, guys.
Okay, the Apex Pod on Twitter, and we're grateful for all y'all's engagement, grateful for y'all listening and tuning in with us, and we'll be back next week to talk Austria, and I hope you all have a fantastic
Yep,
week.
see you guys.
See you soon.
Have a great week
Bye.
off, everyone.
Bye.